Welcome to Healthy Glycans. In this podcast, we look at how glycans can guide us towards preventive healthcare and longevity, as seen through the lens of SynHealth, an EU-funded project turning glycan biomarkers into personalized medicine across Croatia and Slovenia. Hello. You're listening to the very first episode of Healthy Glycans. Now, to kick off the series, the SynHealth team decided to first sit down with our project coordinator, Professor Gordan Lauc, who is also CEO of Genos, a global leader in glycomics. With more than 30 years of research behind him, Gordan explains what glycans are, why glycan biomarkers matter for our health, and how SynHealth project is helping to support their use in personalized and preventive healthcare.
Hello, Gordon.
Hi,
Can you briefly introduce yourself and your background?
I'm a scientist working in the field of glycobiology for more than 30 years. It's a relatively niche field, so not many people work with glycans, but still it's a large field because the glycobiology is very complicated. Glycans are molecules which actually enabled the life to become multicellular. Without glycans, we would still be a single-celled organisms. And we still do not know much about it. So we are trying to learn. And this is what we focus in our science, looking at different diseases, different organisms, and trying to understand what are glycans actually doing. And unfortunately, majority of scientists still ignore glycans because they're difficult to study. There's a great analytical challenge to be able to look at them. And this is what we were focusing on the last 30 years, probably. So today we have really analytics, which is, I'm pretty confident in saying it's the best in the world for doing large studies. And we actually did the majority of large glycomic studies that have been done globally. And we collaborate in multiple different projects to add glycans to all the interesting studies which other researchers do.
And how did you first hear about glycans or maybe pivot from another field?
Everybody knows that glycans exist, at least people in the bioscience. But I was, incidentally, when I was doing a PhD in the 90s in Germany, one Friday afternoon, my boss brought me the box of the brand new kit for looking at the glycans and say, I do want to play with that. And I keep playing with that for the last 30 years. 35.
Okay, well,
That was just initial step, look at the glycans. But then what I realized is that you can see in glycans what you do not see in genes, in proteins, because the glycans are highly dynamic. So genes are, we get it from our parents. We are set for a lifetime. We cannot change our genes. Proteins are defined by genes. So this is kind of given. But the majority of events which happen in life, health, disease, whatever, education, it's not that much defined by genes. Genes affect it, but we still have a lot of kind of free will to make decisions, to make our lifestyle choices and change our life trajectories. And this you cannot monitor by looking into genes. You have to look into some kind of molecules which change through life. And this is where glycans showed up. It'd be really important because whatever we did, stress, diseases, the glycans are changing. So you can see how they change. You can see that people are different. You can try to understand why are people different. And this is what keeps me linked to glycomics for the last 30 years. Not the fact that I started it, but that whatever we do, we find something interesting.
And now in the context of SynHealth and the project, how do you think that having this project can help revolutionize this field of research?
So the SynHealth is part of this widening mechanism of Horizon, meaning it's helping researchers from the New Europe to become better and to kind of keep up with the colleagues in the West Europe, because we do know there is a big difference in Europe in the quality of research, in the amount of funding which can be obtained. So widening is a mechanism which is supporting us from the New Europe, and we are from Croatia, to become better. And specifically, SynHealth is a kind of experimental type of a call where they want to achieve synergy between the Horizon funding and uh, these so-called structural funds, where you can get local funding. It comes from a European budget, but it's managed within the country, and it's a country level competition, not Europe level competition, and it's more business oriented, meaning it's more directed toward innovation and product development and commercialization. So the idea of SynHealth is to develop synergy between our past Horizon research. This is why we have some of our past partners from the Horizon grants in the SynHealth consortium, and help us to bring it closer to the market. So do some valorization studies to see what has a commercial potential, to do a lot of training and education of our researchers, but also the research support staff like the project managers, and training innovation capacity in commercialization, and then to develop new applications for the structural funds, which would bring some of this research closer to application. Because, science is fun. We all enjoy doing science. But for this to have any meaning, we have to eventually translate it into products, into things, into services which people will benefit from. And I think it's extremely important to explain to people that everything what we have today, from computers, electricity, it comes from research. So somebody has to do research, but then in the same time, it's very important to explain to researchers that they're not God-given creatures who should be funded just to do research for their fun, but they should try to develop things for the greater good, of course, sometimes in the future. Not all research will be applied today, but we have to think that, we don't have to learn everything in the universe and about the universe. We should focus on things which will make life better.
Yes, and speaking of that, do you think that there will be specific challenges that you'll be addressing, or any field where you'll have a feeling of being a little bit in the Wild West when it comes to this research?
So everything what we do is a struggle, because first we are trying to convince people that glycans are important, and especially in the field of medicine, which is extremely conservative, it's very hard to convince people that something they do not understand is important. Usually they just reject it. And then the second thing is, so the SynHealth aims for preventive medicine, for preservation of health, not for healing, or not for treating diseases, because current medicine is just, in the vast majority of cases, just removing the symptoms from sick people to keep them more or less alive, and then keep treating them forever. They're good customers for life. And what we are trying to achieve is to develop ways for people to stay healthy. And this is a struggle because nobody makes money out of it. It's easy to have a model to develop a drug because there's a worked out mechanism how to go from a discovery to a drug with the different levels of funding. The players in which part, their algorithms which they follow. It's extremely high risk, so majority of candidates fail, but there is a way to fund it. If you want to go into preventive medicine, then you hit a kind of plateau at the basic research model, because there are no companies which can bring preventive medicine to the market, and because companies do not benefit from that, and the government or the people, they have no mechanisms to bring something to the market, because every government would be happy to reduce the cost of the healthcare, because that's the idea of prevention, and everybody would like to stay healthy, but they have no funding mechanisms to translate the discovery into a product. So things like SynHealth are helping here, because they're kind of a stepping stone to move from a basic research, which we were doing at Horizon, and prepare it for a more commercial applications, because it is a challenge. You know, you have to find a way how keeping people healthy can make money.
Yes. So do you feel that in that sense you're positioning yourself against a way less scientific wellness business whose main goal is just to sell some kind of wannabe drug that would be a quick fix in a way?
We do have this type of a problem because we are developing biomarkers to show whether some kind of a lifestyle intervention works. And there are so many people in the world selling magic solutions for all the problems. And we tested many of them, and most of them don't work. And none of them work in everybody. But there are some interventions which actually work very well in some people. So I think it's only important to have an kind of understanding with the different clinics that we work together, or even kind of companies developing things, that we cannot expect to have a kind of longevity or preventive interventions which will work for everybody. This will never exist. But if we identify people who will benefit, you know, having 10% of a planet as your customer would be fantastic. You know, even having 5% or 1% would be great. And if you have an intervention which can really keep people healthy, then they will want to use it. Just they have to know that this works, and you have to find a way how to identify which of the potential customers are the ones which would benefit. So there is a win-win way, but it does require a lot of work from all parties.
So that would include, I'm guessing, good communication to position yourself a bit more opposed this kind of one size fits all type of advertisement.
Nobody nobody serious claims that there are one size fits all solutions for anything. The problem is that we do not have good tools to stratify people. And so far, when you come to the marketing level, yes, marketing people will claim, yes, this will help you, whatever, snake oil. But at the research level, we all acknowledge this problem, and we are aware that the majority of medicines, majority of drugs do not work in the majority of people. So in a hospital, we are used to getting a drug A, seeing whether it works. If it's not working, get the drug B, and then you get drug C, and so on. So this is today's medicine. It's still very primitive, but that's the way it is. And eventually we have to improve it. And this is why we do research.
So there is something quite paradoxical in all of this, in the sense that we are moving towards some a way more individual approach to things. And when you see that you try again and fail and try again and fail, the solution is not. It's not obvious that it fits everybody, and obviously it fits some people better than others. So it's interesting to see that despite that, and despite this research being decades years old, you're still facing some resistance towards this process.
So it's medical research is slow, very slow. So even after something is fully established, it takes decades to spread around the world. So things move slowly, and we have to accept it, that things move slowly. But eventually we will get there, because in all strategies all around the world, personalization of healthcare is important part. We don't have it yet. You know, we don't have good tools, and this is where I believe glycans have a huge potential, because after spending literally hundreds of billions on looking into genes and trying to personalize people based on genes, and still failing, and we are still failing in a vast majority of situations, we should look somewhere else. And glycans are one of the places where you could find this missing information. And this missing information is a lifestyle. Genes only tell you your background. Everything what happens since you were born are some of these decisions. First your mother's, and then your decisions, what you are eating, what you are doing, what you are thinking, and this is affecting your health. And we have to take that part into account if we want to personalize medicine.
Okay, and now we're about to close. So before we finish, I wanted to ask you for one little piece of advice, maybe one fun fact, and or a question for our next guest, which will be Nicolina from Glycanage.
Little piece of advice is that we're really deciding. Our own decisions are what makes us either sick or healthy in 10, 20, 30 years. And majority of people, when they're young and healthy, do not think that the decisions we are making today are actually causing troubles in the future. So I think it's important to think about it, and it's important to monitor it. So to have a way how to look at it. Fun part, something which is kind of puzzling, is that there seems to be things like a magic pill, because we do see that some of the interventions really do magic in some people. So not everybody, so there will not be a magic pill for everybody. But if you find the right kind of button to press, meaning finding a problem, like, you're a vitamin D deficient. So many people died because of the lack of the vitamin C. And then you give them things like, okay, it even doesn't have to be a vitamin C tablet. It can be this sauerkraut. That was a solution for the first transatlantic trips. You have a barrel of acid thing full of vitamin C. Now you take a pill. So if we find a problem, we can really do a magic solution. For Nicolina, so I think the biggest challenge Nicolina has is how to convert a problem into a solution. Because what we are doing, we are identifying problems. We do a test and tell you, you are 30 years older biologically, you have a problem. And people do not want to buy problems. People are not going to pay somebody to give them a problem, because they will just tell, I don't want to know, unless you offer them a solution. So this is what is Nicolina's challenge: how to convert a problem into a solution, which can then be a successful product on a global level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you.
And that's it for today's episode of Healthy Glycans. Thanks for listening, and follow us on social media for updates from the SynHealth project and when the next episode is out.